Note the disclaimer, and remember that my Patreon supporters got to see preview images, work in progress shots, blah blah blah, link is below. Let's get to the video! Hello my friends, this is WakeAngel2001 coming at you with a commission for Korey Sonicfan22. He wanted Larry Lynx, also known as Larry the Jinx, or the Joker. Well, I think it was just Joker. So yeah, this is a character from the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book continuity that I've never made a figure of before. And you know what that means? It's time for an overly elaborate retelling of his backstory! Larry Lynx was first introduced way back in Sonic the Hedgehog issue 12. This is when it had more in common with the Adventures of Sonic cartoon than it did with the Saturday morning cartoon. So big characters, pratfalls, and simpler storytelling and more child-friendly art style was really a more common thing. Larry was first introduced to us as being up in a tree, reluctant to get rescued because anybody who got close to him met with misfortune, as was shown when the tree limb crushed all the freedom fighters and their injuries made them vulnerable to getting captured by SWAT bots. But Sonic was able to convince Larry to use his ability to bring bad luck to those around him against Dr. Eggman, causing the SWAT bots to crash into each other, and even making Dr. Robotnik himself crash his car into the side of a cliff. That was pretty hilarious, actually. Death by pratfall. So, apparently, it turned out that Larry Lynx's power wasn't that he had bad luck, it's that just weirdly improbable things would always happen around him. Shown later on in that same issue where he beat Rotor 50 times a row in a game of chess. Which always seemed really weird for me. Like, he should be beating him in a game of cards. Chess isn't a game that you can luck a win into. Its very nature is supposed to be strategy-based, not luck-based. I don't know. I think that was just a failing of the comic book, but let's not get bogged down by that. Larry Lynx would be made leader of the Substitute Freedom Fighters, but that group became pretty much irrelevant and ended up getting disbanded. He tried to run for public office as well, just like Hamlin did, but his ballot box caught fire twice, and so, he didn't get any votes. So, not knowing what to do with himself, one day he decided to sit in a stump in the woods when it collapsed, and he found himself in the lair of the Secret Freedom Fighters. Now, for context, this is coming right out of the Iron Dominion arc, so everybody in the village was still very suspicious of Nicole, who had been reprogrammed by the Iron Dominion into a villain, and they didn't know that she'd been reprogrammed into a good guy who was fighting for them for quite a while. So everyone was still very suspicious of Nicole, and she was staying hidden. So with the jig up, they did the only thing that they could think to do. They offered Larry Lynx a job, and that's when he became Joker, one of the members of the Secret Freedom Fighters. I kind of love the Secret Freedom Fighters, since it gave relevance to a bunch of characters that have been pushed into the peripheries, including Shard, a reformed Metal Sonic, which I still think is an awesome character concept, Sally's brother, Elias, members of the Wolfpack tribe, Lita and Lyko, and, just general, it was all good stuff. Of course, Larry Lynx, with his probability-altering powers, was always some kind of X-factor on that team. Like, whenever you were in doubt, just let him take points or lean against a wall, and something would happen that could move you ahead, whether it's infiltrating a secret base or setting off a death trap so that it malfunctions and jams itself, so that everyone can just walk through afterwards. Yeah, this was basically his role until the Super Genesis wave hits, because unfortunately he was one of the characters that we lost to the Super Genesis wave reboot, which was super duper sad. I'm still kind of upset that we lost everyone to the Super Genesis wave, and then the comic got canceled a couple years after that. But hey, like I said, I still like the IDW comic and think that that's coming out great, so I guess that's everything I have to say about Larry Lynx, so let's get into making the toy itself. So Korey wanted Larry Lynx to be in his base form, not wearing the Joker costume. And he's one of those characters with bare feet and the interpretation of what mobile feet are supposed to look like being a compromise between a paw pad and a human foot. So he has 3 large toes, kind of a similar design to Nicole. Actually, now that I think about it, that is one more distinguishing feature of Larry. Nicole and all the other Lynx characters in the comic, mostly that were associated with the Raiju Ninja Clan, all had short bobtails. But Larry is the only Lynx character to have a long tail with a long tail with a smooth knob at the end. So that could probably mean that he might not be directly related to the population of lynxes that were part of the Ninja Clan. He's a lynx from another continent or something like that. I just like to think it's kind of funny how even in a world of furry animal creatures everywhere, you can still find ethnic differences from one place to another. Oh, and yeah, by the way, the figure is made out of a Tails figure with the feet removed, but yeah, let's just move on. Now, Larry is one of those confounding characters that doesn't wear gloves, so I had to cut the glove cuff off of the Tails hand and then re-sculpt it on to, smoothly meet the hands onto the forearms, despite the fact that they kind of lack elegant wrists. But I was able to do it in such a way that didn't compromise the articulation at all, so that's a bonus. And the feet are one of those times when it's, a totally scratch-made foot. It's funny, with lynxes, like, the shape of that paw foot makes you wonder how they would even get into shoes if they tried. Maybe that's why lynxes often are depicted not wearing shoes at all, because it's hard for them to squeeze their paw toes into them. Then again, lightning lynx wore shoes. Maybe Raiju Ninja Clan lynxes have smaller feet than the long-tailed lynxes from Sonic's Forest. I don't know. The body is a pretty simple modification. It's pretty much just repainted, and the tail is sculpted and then attached to the little depression where Tails' tails used to go. And as for the head, it's also pretty lightly modified. I used a set of Amy Rose's bangs, so I'd have some nice sharp bangs on his forehead, because it's actually pretty hard to sculpt bangs this size and make them look good. And, just the 3 little tufts of hair that are on the tips of all Lynx's ears, and a paint job later, it looks like Larry Lynx. Larry has a pretty simple color scheme. He doesn't even really have a different colored muzzle. Of course, this is the later comic art style where he actually looks like a character from the Sonic the Hedgehog continuity and not a weird, fluffier version of Garfield. But now that we're done talking about this, let's take a look at the completed figure. Oh, Larry, your luck was so weird that you became relevant in the comic only for it to be rebooted. But at least at the end you looked like Bubsy, and not like Garfield. I don't know why I'm singing. This doesn't even work as parody, 'cause the phonemes don't match. My rhythm sucks. I have no idea what I'm doing. But yep, that's a completed Larry figure. And at least in the end, he ended up looking like an actual video game character instead of Garfield. Ah! How did you make my robot self-destruct? And why did it look like it just tipped over? I don't know. I wonder if I'm gonna get a copyright strike for my oral rendition of the Hanna-Barbera music sting. I don't know. But I will fight you to the end if you do, copyright bots.